You didn't think I'd miss it, did you? Oh my God, is that her? What is she doing here?
These are the papers. I know exactly what they are.
Sign here. Tunde Adebayo pushed the divorce papers across the polished table with the same careless confidence he used when approving contracts. Like this was business. Like 12 years of marriage could be reduced to a signature, a date, and a witness. Rain tapped softly against the glass walls of his Ikoyi office. The skyline of Lagos shimmered behind him. Everything in that room looked expensive, cold, controlled, and completely built to impress other men. Amara Okafor sat across from him in silence. Her wedding ring was still on her finger. Tunde noticed it immediately. A smirk lifted one side of his mouth. "You're still wearing it?" he asked. "That's not sad at all." Amara slowly looked up. Her face was calm. Too calm for a woman sitting across from the man who had betrayed her for over a year, and now wanted to act as though he was doing her a favor by leaving cleanly. At the end of the table, the lawyer adjusted his tie and looked down. He had probably seen ugly divorces before, but this one felt different, because Tunde wasn't angry. He was entertained. He leaned back in his chair and picked up his glass. "Most women scream first," he said. "Cry, throw something. At least pretend the marriage mattered." Amara said nothing. That irritated him more than tears ever could. "Oh, come on," he laughed. "Don't sit there acting morally superior. This marriage died a long time ago." "You killed it," she said quietly. Tunde gave a dry chuckle. "There she is." He pointed at her with the glass. "That tone right there. That's exactly why this stopped working." Amara folded her hands in her lap. "No," she said. "What stopped working was your need to be worshipped by anyone too dazzled to question you." For a second, his smile hardened. Then he recovered. Men like Tunde always recovered quickly. He had built his whole adult life around performance. Charm investors, charm friends, charm family. Charm a younger woman into believing she was special because a powerful man had chosen her. "I told Zara you'd act like this," he said. The name hung in the air. Zara Mensah. 27. Beautiful. Social media polished. Always photographed from the right angle. Always glowing beside him in designer clothes he never once noticed Amara didn't wear. Amara had seen the photos months before he confessed. A yacht in Zanzibar. A rooftop dinner in Dubai. A hand on her waist that used to belong to Amara. "You already talk about me to her?" Amara asked. Tunde shrugged. "She listens better than you did." Amara let out a small laugh. Not because it was funny, because disappointment sometimes becomes too heavy to carry with dignity. Tunde misunderstood the laugh immediately. "You know what your problem is?" he said. "You spent so many years being my wife that you forgot how to be interesting." Her eyes lifted to his again. "And you spent so many years being admired," she said softly, "that you confused attention with love." That one landed. He felt it. She saw it. But pride stepped in before honesty ever could. "Without me," he said, "your world becomes very small." The lawyer shifted again. Amara looked down at the papers. Assets, properties, share distributions, vehicles, residency terms. Every page written in the language of ownership. Nothing in it mentioned the nights she stayed awake waiting for him. Nothing mentioned the dinners she ate alone while he sent voice notes saying he was still at the office. Nothing mentioned the way she became quieter every year because loving him required less of herself and more of his comfort. Tunde mistook her silence again. He always had. "You know what I think?" he asked. Amara said nothing. "I think you're terrified." Finally, she looked directly at him. "Of what?" "Being alone." His smile widened. "You built your life around me. Once this is done, what exactly are you?" The room went still. Even the rain outside seemed to hush itself. Amara stared at him for a long moment. Then she asked one question. "Do you really believe I have nothing without you?" Tunde spread his hands like the answer was obvious. "Tell me I'm wrong." She almost did. Almost. But then she understood something important. A man who spent years reducing your value will never suddenly develop vision during one conversation. So instead of arguing, she reached for the pen. Tunde watched carefully, expecting hesitation, expecting trembling fingers, expecting the moment her pride would finally crack. Instead, she uncapped the pen calmly and signed the first page, then the second, then the last, smoothly, elegantly, like she was finally putting down something far too heavy to keep carrying. For the first time that afternoon, his confidence flickered. "That's it?" he asked. "No speech? No tears? No emotional breakdown?" Amara closed the file and slid it toward him. "You already had your goodbye months ago," she said. "You just didn't notice." Something in her tone unsettled him. He covered it with another laugh. "You'll regret walking away from this life." Amara stood slowly and picked up her handbag. The diamond in her ring caught the light one last time. Then she removed it and placed it gently on top of the papers. Tunde's eyes dropped to the ring. For the first time all afternoon, he looked uncertain. Amara noticed. Then she smiled. Not angrily, not sadly, just calmly, like someone waking up from a long sleep. "What's funny?" he asked. She walked toward the door in black heels, each step measured against the marble floor. Then she stopped without turning around. "You think this is the moment my life falls apart?" "Yes," he said. "No, Tunde," she replied. A long pause followed. Then, finally, "This is just the moment your importance in my story ends." 3 years later, Amara Okafor stood barefoot in the kitchen of her penthouse overlooking the Lagos Lagoon, reading a report on her tablet while the espresso machine hummed behind her. Morning light spilled across marble counters. The apartment was quiet in the way real wealth often is. No loud labels, no desperate performance. Just discipline, taste, power. Everything about the home reflected the woman who lived there now. Her assistant, Sade, walked in carrying a stack of documents and a cream envelope. "You have the Nairobi call at 11, London investors at 2, and—" She stopped. Amara glanced up. "What is it?" Sade placed the envelope on the island. Gold embossing, heavy paper, old-fashioned handwriting. Amara's hand froze halfway to her cup, because she recognized the writing instantly. Tunde. Even after 3 years, some things remained familiar against your will. Sade watched her carefully. "Do you want me to throw it away?" Amara stared at the envelope for several seconds, then opened it. Inside was a wedding invitation. Mr. Tunde Adebayo and Miss Zara Mensah request the honor of your presence. For a moment, the kitchen went silent. Sade expected anger, or pain, or at least discomfort. But Amara kept reading. Then she turned the card over. And there it was, a handwritten note in black ink. Come and see what winning looks like. Sade's face changed instantly. That is evil. Amara said nothing. She only looked at the sentence. Not hurt, not shocked. Thoughtful. Then, very slowly, a smile touched her mouth. Small, controlled, dangerously calm. Sade knew that expression. She had worked with Amara for 2 years now. That face never meant something pleasant for the other person. You're not seriously considering going, Sade said. Amara lifted her coffee. What date? Saturday, Cape Town. She took one slow sip. Clear my evening. Sade stared. You're serious? Amara walked toward the windows. 3 years earlier, Tunde had looked at her like she would collapse without him. 3 years earlier, he believed silence meant weakness. What he never understood was that silence can become strategy, and pain, when disciplined properly, can become structure. In the months after the divorce, Amara had vanished from the circles that once knew her. People assumed she was broken. Tunde encouraged that assumption. He told friends she was unstable, too emotional, unable to move on. He told people she had lost herself. What he never told them was that Amara had spent years quietly learning. Private equity, urban development, hospitality acquisitions, luxury infrastructure, late-night courses, secret meetings, investment memos, models, risk sheets. Every subject he mocked her for asking about became a language she learned to speak fluently. Now she owned Okafor Crescent Holdings, one of the fastest-rising hospitality and property investment groups operating across Lagos, Accra, Nairobi, and London. Boutique hotels, waterfront residences, high-end event properties, private investors, international coverage, panels, magazine profiles, strategic partnerships. Enough influence that people changed posture when her name entered a room. Not because she demanded attention, but because she no longer chased it. Sade crossed her arms. He invited you to make you uncomfortable. I know. He wants you to compare his life to yours. Amara turned. And what exactly do you think he'll see when he compares? Sade opened her mouth, then closed it again. Because honestly, Tunde Adebayo had no idea who his ex-wife had become. Amara picked up the invitation once more. Come and see what winning looks like. The irony almost made her laugh. Because men like Tunde always think winning looks loud. A younger woman, a bigger celebration, more visible money, a prettier photograph. They never understand that real victory is quiet. It is healing in private, discipline without witnesses, rebuilding so completely that the old wound no longer recognizes you. She reached for her phone. Sade watched. Who are you calling? Idris. Your head of security? Amara nodded. The line connected immediately. Ma'am? Clear Saturday evening. A pause. Personal or professional? Amara looked at the note again. Both. Idris was silent for a second. Then he exhaled softly. That expression is back, isn't it? Amara smiled faintly. You know me too well. I've worked with you long enough to know that face means somebody's about to regret something. Her smile deepened. Not regret, she said. Perspective. That evening, across the city, Tunde sat in a private lounge with his friends, a glass in one hand and confidence in the other. She'll come, he said. One of the men laughed. You really think she still cares that much? Tunde smirked. She cared too much. That was always the problem. Zara joined them in white silk, smiling the smile of a woman who believed she had won by being chosen. Then her eyes landed on the guest list. You actually invited your ex-wife? Of course, Tunde said. Why? He leaned back. Because I want her to see I upgraded. Some of the men laughed, but not all of them. One glanced at him with visible discomfort. That feels unnecessary. Tunde shrugged. What's unnecessary is pretending failed people disappear after divorce. Meanwhile, high above the water, Amara stood in front of her mirror while stylists adjusted the fall of a champagne-colored gown against her shoulders. No loud revenge dress, no screaming statement. Just elegance so controlled it didn't need explanation. Idris stood by the doorway. You're attending a wedding, he said dryly, not a summit. And yet you approved 3 vehicles. You're worth protecting. The answer came quickly, professionally, but it softened her expression for half a second. Then he checked his watch. One more thing. What? The press already knows there's a chance you'll attend. Amara sighed lightly. Of course they do. You can still decline. She turned back to her reflection. 3 years earlier, she would have avoided this completely. 3 years earlier, she still bled from things nobody could see. But not anymore. Now, she only felt curious. Curious whether his voice still held any power over her. Curious whether the old ache was truly gone. Curious whether she could stand in front of the life that once broke her and feel absolutely nothing. She looked at herself one final time. Then she said, quietly, Prepare the cars. The Valmont estate outside Cape Town looked like it had been designed to impress people who had never truly been impressed before. White roses, long stone walkways, crystal chandeliers suspended beneath silk tents, soft violin music floating over the lawns, servers moving with silver trays. Every detail screamed money. Not quiet money, performative money. The kind designed to make other people feel smaller. Tunde Adebayo stood near the entrance, greeting guests with polished confidence, one hand in his pocket. Zara glowing beside him in embroidered white. Compliments surrounded them. You two look perfect. Wedding of the year. Power couple. Tunde smiled at every sentence, as if he had personally engineered destiny. And maybe he believed he had. Because tonight was not just a wedding for him. It was proof. Proof that he had won the divorce. Proof that life rewarded men like him. Proof that he had been right about Amara. Then the first black SUV entered the estate. At first, nobody paid much attention. Rich guests had arrived in expensive vehicles all evening. Then a second SUV rolled in. Then a third. All black, all identical, all moving with deliberate precision. Conversations began to thin. Heads turned. The convoy stopped in a clean line near the entrance. And then 4 security personnel stepped out first. Dark suits, earpieces, straight backs. Real security. Not flashy intimidation, not nightclub theater. The kind of protection attached to people whose names open doors. A murmur moved through the lawn. Tunde's smile faded. "What is this?" one groomsman whispered. No one answered. Because the middle door had opened. Amara Okafor stepped out into the evening light, and the entire atmosphere shifted. She wore champagne silk that moved like liquid. Diamond earrings caught the chandeliers without trying too hard. No dramatic makeup. No desperate effort to look younger. No revenge performance. Just beauty so effortless it made everyone else suddenly feel overstyled. She paused beside the vehicle while one of the officers closed the door behind her. Her expression remained calm, unreadable, like she had walked into rooms far more important than this one. The whispers began immediately. "Who is she? She looks familiar. Wait, isn't that Tunde's ex-wife? No, that's his ex-wife?" Tunde felt his stomach tighten in a way he did not appreciate. Because this was not the woman he remembered. The Amara in his memory looked exhausted, quiet, reduced. This woman looked like she owned things, owned herself, owned the air around her. Zara turned to him sharply. "You said she was struggling." She was. Zara looked back toward Amara. "Women who are struggling don't arrive with a security detail." Amara moved through the entrance garden slowly while conversations bent around her. People stepped aside instinctively, not because she demanded it, because presence like hers naturally creates space. Idris remained several feet behind her while the rest of the team positioned themselves discreetly around the venue perimeter. Tunde's friends were staring openly now. One leaned toward him. "You told us she never recovered." Tunde kept his jaw tight. She didn't. But even he no longer believed it. Amara accepted a glass of sparkling water from a server with a soft "thank you," then continued toward the central fountain. She did not search for Tunde, did not scan the crowd nervously, did not behave like a woman attending her ex-husband's wedding. She behaved like someone stopping briefly at another event on an already full calendar. And somehow, that hurt him more than anger would have. Zara folded her arms. "She's doing this on purpose." Tunde nodded too fast. "Exactly." But Zara was no longer convinced, because Amara had not looked at him. Not once. That was the disturbing part. No bitterness, no jealousy, no visible heartbreak. Nothing. A few guests had already taken out their phones. Expressions started changing one by one. "Oh my God. What? She owns Okafor Crescent Holdings. That's her? It says she just acquired 2 luxury resorts in Kenya. She was featured in Forbes Africa. She's worth how much?" The whispers multiplied. People who had ignored her 15 seconds earlier suddenly wanted introductions. Conversations changed direction in real time. Private capital, luxury events, hospitality assets, regional expansion, international partnerships. Each sentence felt like a small humiliation landing on Tunde's skin. Because 3 years earlier, he told everyone Amara would disappear without him. And now she had arrived looking like she had outgrown him entirely. Then his mother saw her. Mrs. Adebayo moved carefully through the guests until she stood in front of Amara. For a moment, neither woman spoke. Tunde's mother had always been observant enough to notice truths other people preferred to miss. And right now, she saw exactly what her son had lost. "Amara," she said softly. Amara smiled politely. Good evening, ma'am. His mother studied her carefully. The posture, the stillness, the complete absence of emotional chaos. Then she said the only honest thing available. You look powerful. Amara's smile deepened slightly. I am. Across the lawn, Zara's discomfort was growing. Every few minutes someone mentioned Amara again. She's brilliant. She built everything herself? She's even more beautiful in person. Those are real executives speaking with her. Zara turned back to Tunde. Why does everyone suddenly know your ex-wife? Tunde forced a laugh. She likes attention. But even saying it sounded weak. Because Amara wasn't chasing attention. Attention was chasing her. And everyone could feel the difference. Then, for the first time that night, Amara sensed his stare. She turned slowly across the garden. Their eyes met. Tunde expected something. Pain, regret, longing, anything. But Amara only looked at him calmly, the way people look at a place they once lived in and no longer miss. Then she smiled politely and looked away first. That nearly destroyed him. The ceremony had not even begun, and Tunde already felt control slipping. Everywhere he turned, people were whispering, not about the wedding flowers, not about Zara's dress, not about the imported champagne, about Amara. Zara grabbed his arm. Go talk to her. Tunde frowned. What? Go remind people she's your ex-wife, not some queen they should be bowing to. That's ridiculous. She tightened her grip. She walks in here with bodyguards, and now half the guests have forgotten whose wedding this is. Tunde looked across the garden. Amara was speaking with an older investor near the fountain, smiling softly at something he said. Not loudly, not dramatically, just comfortably, like she belonged anywhere she decided to stand. And suddenly, Tunde wanted answers. Because the woman across from him no longer fit the story he had been telling about her. So he made the mistake that ruined the rest of his night. He walked toward her. People noticed immediately. Conversations slowed. Even Idris straightened slightly, though Amara herself didn't react at all. She only lifted her eyes when Tunde stopped at her table. Amara. Tunde. Her voice was smooth, neutral, like she was speaking to an old associate, not the man who once shattered her. He pulled out the empty chair across from her and sat down before realizing he had not been invited. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them felt different now. Not fiery, not emotional, uneven. Because she looked completely steady, and he didn't. You look different, he said at last. Amara tilted her head. People usually do after 3 years. That's not what I meant. I know. A server approached. Whiskey, sir? Tunde nodded. Amara spoke before the man walked away. He'll need something stronger later. The server nearly smiled. Tunde stared at her. That almost sounded like a joke. It was. You never used to joke like that. Amara gave a faint shrug. I used to spend too much energy surviving you. That landed harder than he expected. Maybe harder than she intended. Or maybe exactly as hard as she intended. You really hate me now? He asked. She looked almost surprised. Hate you? She repeated the word as if testing whether it even belonged between them anymore. No, Tunde. Then what is all this? She glanced around the estate. The roses, the lights, the orchestra. the performance of perfection.
Then she looked back at him. The consequences of healing.
For the first time that night, he had no reply ready. The whiskey arrived. He took a sip immediately. Amara watched him for a moment. "You seem nervous." "I'm not nervous." "You're holding the glass too tightly." He looked down reflexively and loosened his grip. She noticed, of course. She noticed everything now. That used to be one of the things he loved most about her, until it became inconvenient. "I honestly didn't expect you to come," he said. "I know." "Then why did you?" She looked toward the rows of chairs set for the ceremony. "I wanted to see whether the pain was still there." His chest tightened. "And?" Now she looked straight at him, calm, certain. "It isn't." Something inside him dropped, hard. He covered it with another sip. "You make it sound easy." It wasn't. Her honesty caught him off guard. "There were months I barely recognized myself after the divorce," she said quietly. "There were nights I questioned everything. My judgment, my worth, my future." For 1 second, he saw the old Amara again. Not weak, just human. And somehow that made the next words hurt even more. "But then one morning, I realized something important." He watched her carefully. "You spent years convincing me I was small because it made you feel larger." His jaw tightened. "That's not fair." Her smile was faint. "No? You always had everything you wanted." She laughed softly. A real laugh this time, not cruel, just disbelief. "Tunde," she said, "I had permission to exist near your success. That is not the same thing as having a life." He looked away first. That alone said too much. "You invited me here to hurt me," she continued. "No, You wrote it on the invitation." Silence. "Come and see what winning looks like." Her eyes remained on his. "You wanted me to compare my life to yours." He exhaled slowly. "Maybe." "And now?" That question felt dangerous, because for the first time that night, Tunde was no longer sure who had actually won anything. He looked at her properly. The composure, the confidence, the quiet power she wore so naturally now. And suddenly he remembered something awful. Amara had always been intelligent. He simply never considered her intelligence valuable unless it benefited him. Now the entire wedding felt unstable because the woman he invited to feel small had become the center of the room without trying. "You changed," he said quietly. Her expression softened just a little. "No, Tunde." A pause. Then, "I returned to who I was before loving someone who needed me smaller." That broke something in him, because he understood it instantly. Amara had not come here for revenge. Revenge still requires attachment. This was closure, and closure is colder. Across the garden, Zara was watching the conversation with panic written across her face. "They've been talking for too long," she snapped at her maid of honor. Back at the table, Tunde asked the question before he could stop himself. "Are you happy?" The question surprised even him. Amara looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. Not politely, not strategically, genuinely. "Yes." No hesitation, no performance, just truth. And that truth hurt more than anything else that night. Because deep down, Tunde had spent 3 years believing her happiness ended when their marriage did. And now the woman sitting across from him looked more alive than she ever had beside him. Amara stood. Idris moved subtly from a distance without needing to be called. Tunde noticed that immediately. That kind of loyalty could not be staged. "You're leaving?" he asked. "I have an early meeting tomorrow." "Where?" "Johannesburg, then Nairobi." The answer came so casually it embarrassed him. Different worlds now, completely different worlds. She picked up her clutch, then paused. "You know the funny part, Tunde?" He looked up. "For years I thought losing you would destroy me." A small silence passed. Then she smiled softly. "But it introduced me to myself." And with that, she turned away, leaving him sitting alone at his own wedding, holding a glass that suddenly felt too heavy. Tunde remained seated long after Amara walked away. Music continued. Glasses clinked. Photographers moved between guests. Everything looked perfect from a distance. But perfection has a way of becoming meaningless once truth enters the room. His best man approached slowly. "You good?" Tunde took the second whiskey without answering. His friend sat across from him. "That woman does not look broken." Tunde said nothing. "You told all of us she never recovered." "At first, she didn't," he muttered. "But clearly she did." Tunde looked toward the fountain again. Amara was speaking quietly with his mother, while Idris stood several feet behind her. Even from a distance, she looked centered. Like peace had finally chosen her back. His friend followed his gaze. "She's different around you." "What does that mean?" "She doesn't react to you anymore." That hit harder than expected, because it was true. Amara used to react to everything. His approval, his criticism, his moods, his silence. Back then, he thought that meant love. Now he understood something much uglier. People become emotionally dependent when they slowly forget their own worth. And Amara clearly remembered hers now. Across the lawn, Zara intercepted him near the aisle. "Tell me honestly," she said. He looked exhausted already. "What?" "Did you still love her when we started dating?" "No." Zara searched his face. "Then why do you look like this tonight?" "I look fine." "No," she whispered sharply. "You look shaken." He looked away. And that answer alone frightened her. Because women notice what men think they hide well. "You told me she was unstable," Zara said quietly. Silence. Her expression changed. "You lied." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" He opened his mouth, closed it again. Because how could he explain this? How could he explain that he truly believed Amara needed him to survive? That he mistook dependence for devotion? That he only understood her value once the whole world started reflecting it back to him? Before he could answer, one of the estate managers approached Amara near the entrance gates. He greeted her with visible respect. "Ms. Okafor, the transfer documents were finalized this afternoon. Congratulations. Valmont officially joins your portfolio at midnight." Tunde, standing several feet away, heard every word. His head snapped toward them. Valmont. The estate. This estate. The same luxury property hosting his wedding. Amara turned slightly. "Thank you," she said. "Make sure the current team is retained. They've handled tonight beautifully." The manager smiled. Of course. Then he left. For a moment, Tunde could only stare, because the final secret had just revealed itself in the most effortless way possible. The venue he rented to display his importance would belong to Amara by the end of the night. She had not come to borrow status from his event. She had walked into property that was becoming hers. Zara saw his expression. What happened? He spoke without taking his eyes off Amara. She bought the estate. What? He laughed once, a small, disbelieving sound. She owns this place. Zara's face drained of color. And suddenly the whole night reorganized itself around a truth nobody could ignore. The bride looked rented. The groom looked insecure. And the ex-wife looked permanent. Near the gate, Tunde moved toward Amara one last time. Amara. She turned calmly. No irritation. No lingering emotion. Just attention. You bought this estate? Yes. When? The acquisition process started 6 months ago. He stared at her. You knew my wedding was here. Yes. And you still came? A faint smile touched her mouth. You invited me. For a moment, he almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because humiliation sometimes arrives too elegantly to resist. Was this revenge? He asked. She looked genuinely thoughtful before answering. No. Then what is it? She glanced around at the lights, the flowers, the imported beauty of the place. Then her eyes returned to him. A reminder. Of what? That power does not always announce itself when you expect it to. He swallowed. The night air felt heavier now. For the first time in his life, Tunde looked like a man seeing himself clearly. When did you stop loving me? He asked quietly. A strange sadness crossed her face, not for herself, for him. Because he still didn't understand. I didn't stop all at once, she said. Her voice was soft. It happened slowly. His eyes lowered. Every time you made me feel foolish for dreaming bigger. A pause. Every time you embarrassed me in front of people. Another pause. Every time I needed kindness and received criticism instead. He said nothing. Neither did the night. Love rarely dies in one dramatic moment, Tunde, she continued. It dies in small disappointments that never heal properly. For several seconds, neither of them moved. Then she gave him one final smile. Not bitter, not angry. Free. I hope you become a better husband than you were a man to me. And then she entered the SUV. The door closed softly. The convoy pulled away from the estate in complete silence. Tunde stood there watching the taillights disappear into the dark. For the first time in his life, admiration from others felt useless. The wedding ended beautifully from the outside. Music played, guests laughed, photographers captured polished smiles. But Tunde moved through the rest of the night distracted and hollow. Every compliment sounded distant, because no matter where he stood, his mind kept returning to the woman who walked into his wedding untouched by him. Amara did not cry, did not compete, did not ask anyone to notice her. She simply arrived healed, and somehow that wounded him more than revenge ever could. Much later that night, after the guests were gone and the chandeliers dimmed, Tunde sat alone in the reception hall. Flowers were beginning to wilt. Half-empty glasses remained on the tables. Somewhere upstairs, Zara was already furious. And in the expensive silence of that celebration, Tunde finally faced the truth. Amara had not lost him. He had lost her. Not in the courtroom, not on the day she left. He lost her slowly. Every time he made her smaller so he could feel bigger. Meanwhile, across the city, Amara stood barefoot in her suite overlooking the sea. Her phone lit up with messages. Investors, managers, flight details, media requests. An entire life waiting for her. A life she built herself. Idris appeared quietly near the doorway. "Was it worth going?" he asked. Amara looked out at the water for a long moment before answering. "Yes." "The closure?" She smiled faintly. "No." Idris waited. Amara lifted her glass and looked toward the reflection of the city lights. "He wanted me to come and see what winning looked like," she said softly. A small silence passed. Then her smile deepened just enough to matter. "I think I showed him first." And somewhere behind her, the ocean moved against the dark shore like applause.